Join us again today as we talk about a movie-related topic. Uh, we'll get into it here in a second. So, join us today.
I just needed a smoke break. What do you want, Levi? What do you want? You're raising your hand.
I just wanted to know from Bobbie if Thanos really did love Nebula.
Yes.
I don't think he did.
Could have got Soul Stone if he
No,
didn't.
he did.
I
He
don't
did.
think he did either.
You just killed her for
it. Do you guys think that the ghost of the Red Skull would lie to him about how to acquire it? You think it's really just like you just have to kill someone, he's just screwing with everyone that comes there?
It's a possibility. It's a real possibility.
I mean, now that I said it out loud, yeah, maybe. Because, the Red Skull, not an honorable individual.
I don't see integrity as a strong suit there.
So confirming, yes, he is Denzel Washington's son.
Really? Can I see a picture of him?
Yeah, John David Washington.
Wow.
Wait, who is Star-Lord's girlfriend? Gamora.
Yeah.
Wait, why did he sacrifice Gamora and not Nebula?
Because he didn't love Nebula. You can tell by the way he treated her. Because look at what he does to Gamora.
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't love Nebula. He loves Gamora.
Exactly. You had to sacrifice what you love the most.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't just sacrifice Nebula. That's not going to accomplish anything other than killing Nebula. And even then, I doubt it, because the fall probably wouldn't kill her. Because, she's a cyborg. She's just, back together,
I think that's the plot hole that we all need, but don't know we need. This Red Skull is just a liar. He's just a facade.
You heard here first, folks. New film theory about Infinity War. There is no test for the Soul Stone. The Red Skull is screwing with people.
The Red Skull is the test. Oh God.
No, and you know what's really bad about that, and I hate to say this because I like Infinity War and Endgame. There's no stakes going forward.
What do you mean?
They can rebuild the time machine anytime they need to. They're like, oh, Gamora died. We'll never get her back until we bring her back from the past. Oh, well, she doesn't know you yet. Who cares? You wooed her over once. You'll do it again.
Yeah.
We all know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, we lost Natasha until we go back in time and grab a different version of her. Oh, Cap's an old man. Until we go back in time and grab a young version.
And then it just turns into a whole Rick and Morty episode.
Tony's dead until we go back and grab him. And it's like... And I get it. I read comics. There's literally no stakes there. I mean, at this point right now in the comics, the X-Men have a way to just resurrect people. Straight up, as long as they've got your DNA and your brain pattern from Cerebro, you can't die now. And thanks to an earlier comic with Ben Reilly, who's a Spider-Man clone, and someone in the afterlife, I don't remember who it was, Death, the literal personification of death, explained that, whenever you're cloned like that to that level, that's you. Your soul goes back into the clone body. So it's legit you. You're not like a pod person, So yeah, so the metaphysical side's taken care of. So it's definitely just you back. Of course, the X-Men promised to explore one concept, but they haven't yet. What happens if you do that and the other person isn't dead yet? And they've never gotten around to addressing that. So, but because of that, they can also control the genetics of the clones. There are some people that literally go in and hey, whenever I die, do this to my next body. And there's people requesting to just be clones of Magneto for his powers. And he's like, no, you can't. No, that's me.
I also think that the translation from comic books to movies is important. And I don't think that they should be the same, in my opinion, because I think cinema is a different realm, and the way that we enjoy cinema is different. Like, we need climax, we need anticipation, you know, we need stakes.
Right. No, I agree that they should be different, partially.
Partially.
Here's my philosophy on this. You have two choices. Either take the basic components of characters, how they behave, their relationships, and then make your own original story. Now, this original story can have bits and pieces of existing stories. In fact, it's probably going to, just because, you know, characters like Superman have existed since the 30s. Like, they've probably already done whatever story you're going to think of. So, either do that, or pick a storyline and recreate it with slavish devotion. Those are your choices. You start going down that middle road of like, well, we're going to mostly do this, but we want to use these characters, which, if you understand anything about these characters in this storyline, means it's going to radically change things, but we don't, so we're not going to notice that, so it's just going to become a jumbled mess, which is what happened in the X-Men franchise when they tried to adapt the Dark Phoenix storyline the first time, and the second time, which is sad because like that's the storyline to adapt. But the problem is, to make the Dark Phoenix storyline work, you need like 4 or 5 X-Men movies before you ever even start in it, because the whole point of the storyline is the relationship between Jean and Cyclops. How Jean, before that point, was just, you know, she had telepathy and telekinesis, but like not anywhere near what she had after that. She was just, you know, she just had powers. She was not super outgoing, you know, and this, that, and the other. And it's to show how godlike powers change people, and how people are not gods, and the power will corrupt them to the extreme. Like that's the whole point of the storyline.
It's almost like the Ring, the Lord of the Rings. Slightly.
Kind of.
I mean, well, the ring is corrupt. That corrupts itself, or it corrupts the holder.
Yeah, the ring is corruption.
Yeah, but it also represents power.
Right, but the difference is like between the difference between the ring and the Phoenix. The Phoenix doesn't have some desire to return to anyone else or any of these other things. What happened was the Mcron crystal in the Shi'ar galaxy, the Emperor Dekin was trying to figure out how to access its power. And to reseal it, the Phoenix had to reseal it. So the Phoenix bonded with Jean Grey to have a host to carry out that part. That's like the first part of the Phoenix storyline. So she does all that. Then the problem is the Phoenix doesn't leave, because now the Phoenix has experienced human emotions and wants more. And then the Phoenix experiences negative human emotions, and it's like, whoa, like, that's the good stuff. Give me another hit. And right about this time, there's a guy named Jason Wingard who can create illusions. And he has Emma Frost, the White Queen and telepath, boost his powers and get him inside Jean's mind, past her defenses, to start trying to woo her over, to bring her over to the Hellfire Club. And they do, because the Phoenix is all like, yeah, this is a bunch of hedonists. Like, let's go with them. Like, this is going to be exciting. Now, the X-Men are like, get your damn hands off Jean, you know. So they go storming in, and, well, it turns out the leadership of the Hellfire Club are also a bunch of mutants. They throw down, and Leland blasts Wolverine down to the basement, where he then, like, murders his way back up to the top. And finally, the Phoenix, like, sets the X-Men free, and is like, I don't care for any of you. Kill each other for all I care, and goes up to the rooftop.
Yeah.
And so Cyclops goes up there, but Mastermind gets there first, Jason Wingard. And she's like, you know, she finally turns on him because he's trying to reassert control. And she's just like, you pathetic little man. Like, you want to see what true power is? And so that's whenever she blasts him, and like his illusions fall away. And you see like the haggard wretch that he truly is. But also she shows him like the infinite of the cosmos, and he sees like eternity and infinity, love, hate, death, all the abstracts, and it just shatters his mind because the human mind can't deal with that. And so she's like, that's what power is.
Mm.
And Cyclops is like, Jean? She's like, no, I'm the Phoenix, and flies away. And then goes and consumes a star and kills 5 billion people.
Mm. Mm.
Yes.
Mm.
So then she comes back to Earth eventually, and like Professor X tries to gain control. They kind of temporarily bottle the Phoenix, but the Shi'ar show up and are like, yeah, so the Galactic Council decided like she's got to go. She killed 5 billion people, and so yeah, like so we're just gonna shoot her. You guys need to stand back.
Yeah, and that's all in the comics, right?
Right, and Professor X is like, no, Lilandra, you're not. I'm going to invoke such and such a thing from the Shi'ar traditions, because he had been living with Lilandra for a while.
Yeah.
Because they're like their souls are bonded across time and space and all kinds of other gibberish. And so while she was ruling, he was just like in the library reading crap, because what else is he going to do?
Sure.
And so he's like, I demand trial by combat. So the X-Men and the Imperial Guard fight it out in the blue area of the moon, which in Marvel Universe there's an area of the moon that has air and everything called the blue area of the moon. It's a whole story. I'm not going to go into it. Ancient civilization, ruins, that kind of stuff. So they're fighting it out, and Jean is intentionally holding back the Phoenix. The X-Men get wasted. There's no hope of victory, and they
technical difficulties,
potential spam, upgraded to actual spam.
Mm.
So they fight it out, and the X-Men are losing. And and Lilandra knows that the X-Men stand no chance against the Imperial Guard. Like they have one of Marvel's Superman clones on their team, Gladiator. They're not going to beat him. So it comes down to Cyclops and Jean, and Jean just unleashes the power of the Phoenix and just wipes out the Guard with a wave of her hand. And so aboard like the main like war cruiser that's overhead, Lander's like, all right, well, we're just gonna blast her with everything we got and hope this works, like, because that's our only shot. Because like the Kree and the Skrulls and the Brood are all like, shoot her now,
Mm.
And Cyclops is like, no, Jean, calm down, And she's like, Scott, I can't control it. Like, I've tried.
Yeah.
Like, I can't control this anymore. No matter what, something like this is always going to happen. And so she uses her powers to hold Cyclops back while she activates this like big space cannon thing that's buried in the rubble over there and blasts herself to atoms.
Yeah. And what do you think, holds Hollywood back from creating what needs to be created in order to tell that story?
They rush to it because because it's the most well-known X-Men storyline.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, what are we going to adapt? Dark Phoenix Saga? Sure. It's like, okay, but you need to build up like 4 or 5 movies so we know these characters so it matters when all this goes down. And I'm hoping that since they saw that it took 20 movies to make the Infinity Stones matter, that they're going to realize we can spend 4 or 5 to make this matter. Because this is the storyline that will put that storyline to shame if they do it right.
Yeah, and I don't know what decisions are being made higher up, but I mean, you have a perfect example of a money-making machine of the MCU.
Yeah.
And it takes patience and it takes time. And if you want to, convey a story in the right way, you need those building blocks.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like part of the problem is they won't be obvious building blocks. They'll literally just be like random adventures of the X-Men. Like you're going to pick some other storylines to adapt. Or just random stuff, because you have to get the characters from point A to point B just so we're used to them, so we like them, so that whenever Jean finally undergoes the change to the Phoenix, you're like, oh damn, she was a nice person. Now she's destroying planets, so that whenever she dies, like it's gonna hit. And so you're actually going to give a shit about how Cyclops feels about it, and how Wolverine feels about it, how Xavier feels about it. Or they could go with the alternate ending that's actually in a lot of print versions because originally they didn't want to kill her. And I think Jim Shooter was the editor at the time. He's like, yeah, but you guys have to. Like, she killed 5 billion people. Like, you don't walk away from that. Like, he's like, you've convinced me. You have to kill her. And he's like, no, we're trying to convince you not to. He's like, yeah, but you convinced me you have to now. The alternate version was she loses, and the Shi'ar separate her from the Phoenix, but it also destroys her mutant powers.
Mm.
And because,
so what, she's just normal again?
Yeah, and so because of the fact that she and Cyclops are connected, Cyclops can feel her psychic powers dying as it's happening. And, at the end, the Lander's like, I'm sorry, Cyclops, is there anything I can do? He's like, oh, I think you've done quite enough. Thank you very much. And, takes off with her. And, yeah. But the other one is one of those few issues that has Uatu, the Watcher, at the end of it. And he, waxes poetically about how, in the end, Jean decided to die a human and to become whatever she was going to become because she valued her humanity more than that. And so it was truly the noblest of ends or something, like that, like someone like Stan Lee could write. That doesn't sound at all normal, but it sounds great in a comic book. So yeah, George Lucas dialogue is what I would call that sometimes. Because for those of you that don't know, on the Star Wars set, Harrison Ford several times like, George, the stuff is great on paper, but people don't talk like this. Which is why Harrison Ford, which is why Han is like the smart, the smart ass talking, guy, and everyone else is like, almost not quite Shakespearean English, but like it's kind of up there with an unnatural cadence to it and everything.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Han's just like, oh, what a bunch of baloney. So yeah. Yeah, that's what it'll take for the X-Men to work. But like Days of Future Past, they almost nailed that. But that's easy. Days of Future Past was 2 issues in the comics. Like, a lot of people don't realize that. The Phoenix Saga was like over the course of like 3 years in the comics. Days of Future Past, it's almost just a footnote. It's literally just 2 issues. And then somehow went on to become like one of the defining arcs of the X-Men. And what's really unfortunate is the movies will never go long enough to see its dark twin storyline from the 90s, the Age of Apocalypse. Because the Days of Future Past is essentially, what if the Sentinels and evil humans take over? Well, the Age of Apocalypse is, what if the mutants took over, led by Apocalypse, an evil immortal mutant.
Yeah.
And shows that, the world is just as bad off, possibly worse. And so it's kind of one of those like, so if the humans take over, it's bad. If the mutants take over, it's bad. Where does Xavier's dream fall now? And so, it's kind of a sobering, like, is there a bright future even possible in this scenario? So
yeah.
Plus, also, it's like the most 90s storyline imaginable. Just everything is like absurdly over the top to the extreme because they knew they were gonna like visit this alternate reality and then come back. So they had to go ahead and just kill anyone they wanted to in the storyline, which was glorious. Everyone is like turned to 11. Like, you see these people use their powers in ways you'll never see them use in the regular timeline. Like, you see how devastating Nightcrawler can be. Like, I think he's fighting Deadpool and just gets him in a headlock and teleports, but he only takes his head. Yeah. Yeah. Or one guy is like putting his finger in his chest, just grabs his finger and teleports. And it's like, we'll do that again, will you? Stuff like that. And it's something else. Definitely worth checking out, folks. For those of your comic book readers who never read it. One of my favorite storylines. But I mean that's what it's going to take for them, because that's the main well they haven't tapped yet for known characters. Sure. But I mean, you know, the MCU made the Guardians of the Galaxy a known quantity, and there was like 10 people that knew who the hell they were before the movie came out.
Yeah.
And one of those people created them. So
And that's one of my favorite MCU movies too.
well, it's because that one falls into the crack of no one knows who these characters are. So no one's going to complain if we really mess around with them and just make them whatever we want them to be, because they are not like their comic book counterparts.
And that's fine.
Star-Lord is not a complete bumbling idiot, or at least he wasn't. And that's the problem is now the comic is trying to reflect the movie, and it's an unnatural change. There was no reason for Star-Lord to suddenly become like a bumbling idiot like he is in the movies. Gamora is still Gamora. Like, she was always the deadliest woman in the universe, and she still is. Drax is a little more of a joke than he used to be, but he was always just like the big tough guy who's literally destined to kill Thanos, which he did at least once by punching his hand through his back and taking his heart through the front of his chest. That's in one of those moments where I have it, and so like at the bottom it's like, look, kids, comics. You know.
But like, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You know.
To me, it depends on the character, because the only problem is someone out there is a fan of those characters.
Sure.
And they're like, what have you done to the Guardians of the Galaxy? You know? Or they like to see She-Hulk and they're like, you know, like, what have you done to, I don't know, the Wrecking Crew? No, they're more well known than the Guardians were. And they got the total shaft in that show. Is it Frogman? Is that who is in it? It's something like that. He's got a frog suit. I can't remember what his name was. But someone out there, like, the guy's got a Marvel Legends figure, for God's sake. From, like, years ago. So well before they ever knew he was going to be in the She-Hulk TV series. And they're just like, all right, let's use this guy. Like, some characters are jokes, okay? Like they are. Like in DC, Condiment King, you know, Polka Dot Man. Like, these guys are jokes. In Marvel, Paste Pot Pete.
Forgot about Polka Dot Man.
You know, like even Marvel realized Paste Pot Pete was a joke and eventually started calling him the Trapster instead. It'll always be Paste Pot Pete to me, though. You know, Stilt Man. Like, he's as ridiculous as it comes. He was the whole reason I hoped that they would make a sequel to Ben Affleck's Daredevil, just so it opened up with him beating the crap out of Stilt Man. But alas, that never happened.
Yeah. But I'm the side of, you know, the viewer who doesn't read the comic books and has no frame of reference in regard to these characters. So to me, I'm okay with, you know, them doing what they need to do to make good cinema.
Well, sure. In general, it's just my big issue is like these stories stood on their own and worked for a reason.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
And you're paying money to adapt them for a reason.
Sure.
So why do you want to go and change everything? Like, you know, they're not in the MCU's case, but in like certain earlier adaptations, like the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie, that was like, why on earth are you even paying for the rights to the Fantastic Four here? Just make this its own sci-fi movie. Like, you could remove like a handful of things, and you'd never even know it's a Fantastic Four movie. You know, you just do your own thing. You know, it's just you're trading on the name. You're hoping for that sweet little bump in cash, and all you're really gonna do is piss people off. You know, and so yeah.
Technical difficulties.
Yes. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit the like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, share it around. Let's get your comments on the topic. I think we have amply demonstrated that we do, in fact, read the comments and try to respond to them either online or in the videos. But that is kind of our main method of interaction here, since we don't live stream at the moment. That's probably a ways off, by the way.
Soon to come.
Yeah, for a given definition of soon. Between now and the heat death of the universe, probably.
Sometime between there. Yeah.
Don't know whether to be closer to now or said heat death of the universe, but you know. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we will catch you folks later.